new context. Firstly, let's recap. In this session, we have built the add to cart feature. So once we click on add to cart, so the corresponding item has been added to the cart and has been displayed in the cart route, right? So this is what we have built in the previous session, where the cart list should be available for both the product item details route and also the cart route. So for that, we have made use of context, where we were maintaining the cart list and also the corresponding updation methods. With this, we have built the add to cart feature, right? Coming to today's session, in today's session, we are going to build some more features. Firstly, empty cart view. That is, in case there are no cart items, then we want to display an empty cart view. So we are going to discuss about that and see how we can build this feature. And then we are going to build another feature where in the header, we want to display the cart item count. So we are going to look into this feature too. And finally, we are going to look into how we can deploy this project, the whole e-commerce application, how we can deploy on a particular URL. So let's get started. So to set the code breakdown for today's session, you need to run this, then run npm install. With this, all the dependencies will get installed. And finally, run npm start and you will be able to see this output where the add to cart feature is already implemented. Okay, so now let's start building the empty cart view. That is, in case there are no products in the cart, then we want to display this empty cart view where you can see that, right? So this is the output that we want to display. Okay, so for this, in the initial code, we have already provided the empty cart view component using which we can generate this particular output. Okay, so let me show you the initial code. So in the initial code, so in the components, you can see empty cart view. So the initial code related to the empty cart view display has already been provided to you. So you can directly make use of this empty cart view component. Okay. So now, when do we want to display this empty cart view component? When there are no items in the cart, right? When the cart is empty, that's when we want to display the empty cart view, right? So how do we know whether the cart is empty or not? So we have the cart list, right? So if the cart list length is 0, that means that there are no items in the cart, right? So if the cart list dot length is 0, then we want to display the empty cart view. There you can see. And if the cart list dot length is not 0, then we want to display the cart list view, right? The heading and the cart list view. So this is what we have to do. So we have to access the cart list. We have to find the length of the cart list. If it is 0, we have to display the empty cart view. If it is not 0, then we want to display the cart list view, right? This is what we want to achieve. Coming to the cart component, currently we are displaying the heading and the cart list view, right? There you can see we have the heading and the cart list view. Whereas now, based on the cart list length, we have to either display the heading in cart list view or the empty list view, right? So the empty cart view, right? So there you can see. So if the cart list length is 0, we have to display the empty cart view component, okay? In case if the length is not 0, then we have to display the my cart heading and the cart list view, okay? Clear? So this is what we have to do. So now, firstly, for this, we have to access the cart list and get the length, right? So where is this cart list present? In the context, right? So in the cart component, firstly, I have to import the cart context and then I have to access the cart list. So to access the value in the component, so in the context, what do we have to do? We have to make use of the consumer component, right? So there you can see, we are accessing the consumer component and we are getting the cart list from the context, right? So now, next what do we have to do? We have to move the entire code inside it. Now I'm going to get the length. So cart list dot length. If it is 0, then you have to show the empty view. Otherwise, we shouldn't show the empty view, right? So for that, I'm having a variable where we are maintaining the cart list dot length, whether it's 0 or not. Okay. So if it is 0, the show empty view would be true. Otherwise, it would be false, right? That's straightforward. So now, based on the show empty view, right, we have to either display the empty cart view or the heading and cart list view, right? So there you can see. So show empty view if it is true. So you can see we are displaying the empty cart view. Otherwise, we are displaying the heading and cart list view. Simple, right? So let's do this. So now, based on the cart list count, either I have to display the empty cart view or I have to display the heading and cart list view, right? So I have to write the entire logic in the cart component, right? So here you can see this is the cart component. So now, let me start doing it. Okay, so here you can see currently I have the heading and the cart list view, right? Okay, so based on the cart list length, I have to decide whether I have to display this or the empty cart view, right? So firstly, I have to access the cart list, which is present in the context. So firstly, I'll import that. So import cart context from context / cart context. Okay. So now to access the cart list, I have to make use of the consumer component. Okay. So within that, we'll have a callback function. So from that, I'm going to access the cart list Okay. So now I'll move this entire code inside the callback function. Okay, done. So this has to be returned, right? So I have to write a return statement here. So now, based on the cart list.length, I have to decide whether to display an empty cart view or this entire heading and cart list view, right? So firstly, let me have a variable for that. So show empty view. So if the cart list.length is 0, then we want to show the empty view. Otherwise, we will show this heading and cart list view, right? So let's start writing that condition. Okay. So this is a JSX code. So within the brackets, show empty view if it is true. So then I have to display the empty cart view, right? So firstly, I have to import this empty cart view. Let me import that. So we are currently in cart. So view, okay. So I'm going to import this. I'm going to make use of this component here. Okay. So in case if the show empty view is false, that means we want to display this heading and cart list view, right? So for that, I'm going to move this there. Okay. That's it. So if the show empty view is true, then we'll display the empty cart view. Otherwise, we'll display the heading and cart list view. This is as simple as this. What did we do? We just access the cart list length, right? We have accessed the cart list. We have got the length. And if it is 0, we are displaying the empty cart view. Otherwise, we are displaying the heading and the cart list view. Okay. So let's have a look at the output. So now let's navigate to the cart route and you can see the empty cart view, right? So the reason is obviously there are no items in the cart. So that's the reason the empty cart view is being displayed. Now let's add some items. So here you can see that I have few products. So I'll navigate there and click on add to cart. So let me navigate to the cart route and you can see now we have the heading and the cart items and all, right? So based on whether we have the cart items or not, we are either displaying the empty cart view or the cart list view, right? So we are done applying this logic and we were able to achieve this, right? Okay. So we have seen this and we have seen this output too, where we were displaying the empty cart view in case the cart is empty. Okay, clear? So here what we have done. We have accessed the cart context in the cart component, right? So, and in case the cart list.length is 0, we were displaying the empty cart view. In case it's not 0, then we were displaying the cart list view. So we are done with this particular feature. Now, let's proceed to the next feature, which is we want to display the cart items count in the header component. So there you can see on the top, we have the header. And beside the cart, we want to display the cart items count. You can see that, right? So this is what we want to achieve. So let's see how to add this feature. So here you can see that the header component is present in multiple routes like login, home, and so on. This particular header component is present in different routes, right? The component is the same, but we are making use of this component in different routes like home, products, cart, product item details, and so on. So now, here, let's have a look at the code of the header component. So this is the initial code that is available for you related to that header component. So we have this entire logo, the text beside it, the logout button, and so on. Let's have a look at the initial code. So let me navigate to the header component. So let me just close this. So this is the header component. And there's a lot of code here related to displaying the header. So coming to the content. So firstly, this is related to the desktop and this is related to the mobile. Okay. So we want to display the count in both these cases. Okay. So coming to the desktop first. So here you can see initially we have this logout button and we have this and then the home, products, cart and all this text and the linking related to that and all this is available here. Okay. And we are making use of this header component in different routes. So you can have a look at it. So if you take the products route. Okay. So let me just go to the products route. So you can see on the top we have the header. Similarly, you can look at the cart route also. So here on the top we will have this header component, right? So this header component is the same, but we are making use of it in various other routes. Okay. So now let's see how we can add this count to this header component, right? So firstly, we have to access the cart list and get the count and we have to display this count, right? So here there's one important point. So in case the cart is empty, that is there are no items in the cart, in such scenarios, we won't want to display any count there. Okay, there you can see there is no count. But whereas in case there are items in the cart, then we want to display the count. Okay, that's an additional thing that we want to add. So in case there are items in the cart, then we'll display the count. In case there are no items in the cart, then we won't display the count. Okay, so let's see how to do this. So firstly, we are writing a method for it since we have to implement the same thing for both the desktop and the mobile. As we understood, there is desktop code and the mobile code, and we want to add this count in both the cases. So we are adding a function for it. So there you can see render cart items count, where we are going to access the cart items and we are going to get that JSX that we have to display. Okay, and where do we want it? Beside the cart text. So we are calling that method beside the cart text. There you can see. Okay, now let's add the functionality into the render cart items count method. So here, what do we want to do? So we have to access the cart list and get the count, right? So to access the cart list, it is present in the context. So we are making use of the consumer component and we are getting the cart list. So next, we are getting the cart items count, right? So cart list.length gives us the cart items count. So now, in case the cart items count is greater than 0, then we have to display the count. Otherwise, we shouldn't display. So we have written it there. Okay. Now, let's build this feature. So here, in the header component, beside the cart text, I want to display the number of cart items, right? So I'm dealing with the header component, and beside the cart text, I want to display the count, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to write a method for it, render cart items count. So the reason I'm writing a method for this is because I have to replicate the same thing for the mobile view also. So now let me implement this method. So here what I have to do, right? So firstly, I have to access the cart list from the context, get the count of the cart items and display, right? So for that, firstly, let me import the cart context. Okay, I'm done importing it. So the next thing is start consumer. So we'll have a callback. So this is all obvious, right? We have done this many a times. So now from this, I'm going to access the count also. So that is cart list.length, right? So now I have the count too. So now based on the cart list count, so if it is greater than 0, then I have to display the count. If it is not greater than 0, that is if it is equal to 0, then we shouldn't display the count, right? So let me add the functionality related to that. So firstly, I'm going to return a JSX. Okay. So now within this, I have to write some JavaScript code. So based on whether the cart list count is greater than 0, so in such scenarios, I have to display the count, right? So that whole badge type of thing, that count I have to display, right? So let me write the JSX related to that. So within that, I'm going to display the cart list.length. Okay. Or I can directly write it as a cart list count. Either of things will work. You can write this also. So now there's some styling that I need to apply to this. So you can find these class names in the .css file. It's fairly obvious. Cart count badge. Okay. So now in case if it is greater than 0, then we'll display the badge, right? In case not, then we shouldn't display, right? So that's it. We have written this. And finally, I have to return this, right? So I've written this here. Okay, clear? So if the cart list count is greater than 0, I'm going to return this span JSX. In case if it is 0, then I'm returning null. So nothing will be displayed there. Okay, clear? That's it. Done. So now let's have a look at the output. So here you can see currently in the cart we have one item. So that's the reason here the count is 1. So now let me add another item. So I'm navigating to this products and I'll add an item. Okay. So here you can see this one. So I'm clicking on add to cart and you can see the count has been increased to 2 and you can see we have 2 here. Okay. Clear? That's it. We are done with adding the count in the header, right? So see, once we have understood the core concept of context, applying it and building number of features is fairly very easy and simple, right? So we were able to build 2 such features in such an easy way, right? So we have seen this output too, where by adding the products appropriately, the count was increasing, right? Okay. So now the next thing is we want to display this cart items count in the mobile view also. Okay. So we have displayed it in the desktop view. So similarly, we want to display it in the mobile view also. So you can see there that on the top we have the desktop view related code and in the bottom we have the mobile view related code. So there beside the cart text, we want to the whole cart link, that there's an icon there for it. So beside that we want to display the count. So we'll directly call this method and with this we will be able to see this output. So let's have a look at this. So just like how we have displayed count in case of the desktop view, similarly for the mobile view also we want to display the count. So this is related to the desktop. We are done with this. Now coming to the mobile. So here we have different icons related to each of it. So similarly, you can see that for cart, we have this particular icon and the linking related to that. So after the icon, beside that, we want the count to be displayed. So I'm going to call this render cart items count method, and then the count will appropriately be displayed. So let's have a look at the output. So currently we are in the desktop view. So to look at the different views, so as we previously understood, we can make use of the developer tools. So I've used that. So here you can see, and you can choose different devices, and you can see the output there. So in the mobile, we are displaying the menu option in this manner, and beside the cart icon, we are displaying the cart. Okay, fairly simple, right? Okay, so we are done with this, and we are done with this particular feature, right? So similarly, you can keep on adding more features, right? When it comes to e-commerce application, there are n number of features. You can take inspiration from Amazon, Flipkart, and many such e-commerce applications and add more features to your website, right? So one such feature would be deleting the cart item. So once the user adds a cart item into the cart, we were able to view the cart item in the My Cart, right? So in the cart route. So similarly, if the user wants to delete the cart item, he should be able to do it, right? So for each cart item, there is an into button, the delete button, okay? If the user clicks on that delete button, so the cart item should be removed, okay? So how would you do this? Just give it a thought. Just pause the video and think about how would you implement this. So I hope you have thought. So I'll just give you a brief overview about how you can implement this and how you should think. So just like how we have done add to cart feature, the delete cart item feature is also similar. So when we click on add to cart button, we were updating the cart list, and then appropriately, the cart list was being updated and the cart view was being updated, right? Similarly, when the user clicks on that into button, right, that is the delete button. So we have to call the delete cart item method from the context, okay? And then the delete cart item method should update the cart list in the app component, and then appropriately, an entire view will appropriately get updated. Okay, simple, right? Just like how in add to cart button, when we have clicked, we call the add cart item method, and in the app component, we were updating the state appropriately, and then we were able to see the output. Similarly, when the user clicks on the delete button, so we have to call the delete cart item updation method from the context, and we have to implement that in the app component where we'll be updating the state, and we will be able to see this output. Okay, so do try this out. There are coding practices related to each of the features that I'm going to mention. So do practice them and add them to your e-commerce application. So another feature would be adding the cart summary. So you can see that in the cart route, we were displaying the different cart items. Finally, we want to also display a cart summary at the bottom with the total amount and the number of items. This is also fairly simple, right? So you can create a cart summary component and add it at the bottom. So there you have to display the total price. And how would you get that? So the cart items are present in the context, right? In the cart list, which is present in the context. You can access the context, get the cart list, and in the cart list, we have the products, we have the quantity, we have the price. Using that, you just have to sum up and you will get the total price. Okay, and then you can count the number of items, and that will give you the number of items. Dot length will give you the number of items. Fairly simple, right? Using this, you can display the cart summary. Then the next feature that I'm going to talk about is updating the quantity. So let's say the user has added the item into the cart. Now he wants to update the quantity. So he'll click on that plus minus buttons there. So now, how would you implement this feature? Give it a thought. So when the user clicks on that plus minus buttons, we have to update the quantity. So how would you do that? So far, the updation methods that we have are add cart item and delete cart item. We don't have a method, an updation method, using which we can update the quantity of a particular item. So what do you have to do? Firstly, you have to add an update quantity of cart item method to the context, and you have to implement that in the app component. Okay, and when the user clicks on this plus minus button, we have to appropriately update the quantity of the corresponding item. And since the state will be updated, so the entire state will be updated, so the context will be updated, and so on. The next things will follow. So basically, you have to call this update quantity method, okay, and it has to be implemented in the app component where we'll be updating the cart list in the state. Okay, comes the step of deployment. Okay, so let's understand how to deploy your e-commerce application. Okay, so for that, the command is ccbp publish, and you have to provide the code. So when you start this application, you would be running ccbp start and a code, right? So the same code you have to provide here. Okay, ccbp publish that code, and finally, you have to provide the URL on which this particular application has to be deployed. So just like how in case of dynamic web applications, you will be deploying on a particular URL. Similarly, even in case of React, we will be deploying it on a particular URL. So there you can see. So you can provide the domain there. So here we are building a Next Trends e-commerce application. So you could write something like nexttrends.ccpp.tech. And since many of them would be writing nexttrends.ccpp.tech, so it might not be available. So you can add your name in the front. Like I would be writing Pranitha nexttrends.ccpp.tech. Okay. So you need to run this command in the terminal. And once the publish is successful, so you will get a message saying published successfully. Okay. Then you can navigate to that particular URL that you have given. So here we have written nexttrends.ccpp.tech and you will be able to see this output. Okay. And in case if there are any issues or errors, you will be able to see a message in this manner in red. So try to read and understand and appropriately correct it. Like here, the domain URL was taken. So you have to provide another domain URL. Okay. Similarly, in case if you have any errors, so just read it out. You will be able to easily understand and rectify them. In case if you are not able to do it, so you can reach out us through discussions and we would resolve them. Okay. So let's publish our website. So as we understood, so in the terminal, so we have to write CCBP, publish, and we have to provide the code. So this is the code of this particular one. And then I have to give the URL. Okay. So the URL that I'm going to do is, so since the Next Trends would be taken by someone else, so I'm going to add my name in the front and then nexttrends.ccbp.tech. So here there could be one issue. So the maximum number of characters that you can give in the front is 15. So I think this would be crossing that, right? So 3, 6, 9. So let me just cut short it. Okay. So something like this, or I can cut short your name or something like that. Okay. So and get it. So once you run this, so this particular project that I've done so far would be published on this particular URL. So once this is successful, you can navigate to that URL and see the final output. And you can share this with your friends, with your relatives, and show them the application that you have built. Okay. So you can share it with whoever you want. You can post it on LinkedIn. You can do all of these. Okay. So right now it's getting published. It might take few minutes. Okay. So then you will get a publish successfully message in this manner and you can check it here and share it with your friends. Okay. So I'll just copy this and I can see my output, right? So appropriately I can log in here. So you can see the output there. Okay. And you can share this URL to whoever you want. Okay. And you can also share your progress on LinkedIn. And now let me summarize today's session. In today's session, we have built two features. Firstly, the empty cart view and also displaying the cart items count in the header. Apart from this, we also have looked into other features that you can add. And also we have looked into the deployment step about how